A quick one. I thought I'd better try and give you a bit of an update. Last night had some connection issues. Seems my guest tends to bring them with him whenever I've had some dealings with him. We'll see if we can't get to the guest I was going to have on last night on the show at another time, possibly this evening. We'll see what happens. I thought I'd give you a bit of an update on what's happening with the Aussie Cossack. So he appeared in court yesterday just before 2:00 and was refused bail at the court in Sydney. He is at the Burwood local court, appeared there yesterday, but was taken from there yesterday afternoon and is now at the Silverwater Correctional Facility in Sydney. He'll be brought back to Burwood Court for his appearance, which is scheduled again tomorrow for a bail hearing at 9:30 in the morning. Now, you might recall yesterday, or in fact the day before, when Simeon was arrested, one of the last things that he said on his live stream before being taken into custody was that he hoped a few people might come down to Burwood, maybe make a few phone calls or stand out the front and let them know that the people weren't happy the Aussie Cossack had been arrested. Yesterday, the only person to turn up in front of the court was Riccardo Bosi, which was a pretty interesting thing to have happen, considering that most people thought that the Aussie Cossack and Bosi had had a big falling out at the Sydney rally on Saturday. Now, that wasn't the case. You may have seen some video around where Riccardo was, animated, to say the least, but that had nothing to do, per se, with the Aussie Cossack. So the Aussie Cossack was trying to smooth things over a bit, and, Rick didn't need it smoothed over. I think everything worked out pretty well in the end. Rick actually got to speak to the people personally. He was walking around amongst the crowd, and when he left, most of the crowd went with him. I don't know what happened to Mac's audience after that. It does seem that Mac has a real problem on his hands at the moment, Mac being the organiser of the Sydney affair on the weekend. He's the person who banned Riccardo from speaking, and he has his reasons for doing so. He released a video on Monday, I think it was, claiming that he was the reason that Riccardo wasn't allowed to speak and that he had his own private reasons for it. I'm afraid when you're running a freedom movement, you have no privacy, mate. You have no private reasons to cancel anybody's free speech. It doesn't work like that. So I hope that Mac's little organisation has seen him for what he is now. And of course, Riccardo has exposed the Mason connections that Mac has in that regard. Fairly interesting. If you're following along that line of the story at all, you'll probably get a good idea that there is more to that. We'll probably see and feel more of that in days and times ahead. So back to the Cossack in court yesterday. Riccardo turned up, of course. 9:30 is the scheduled time for court start. That doesn't mean that's going to be the time where the person you want to be there to support is going to be in the court. And of course, Riccardo is in the last week of campaigning at the moment. He could only stay a few hours and had to go off to other commitments that he had for the day. Unfortunately, by the time the Cossack had got into the dock, Riccardo had already left. Interestingly, though, Riccardo probably wouldn't have been allowed in the court. Mrs. Cossack wasn't allowed in the courtroom. They have changed the judge that was going to, or the magistrate that was going to be in charge of the case. And that means that when he fronts the court tomorrow, there'll be a new beak sitting at the desk. And there may well be a few different prosecutors sitting at the prosecutorial table. Now, what sort of trouble is the Cossack in? Well, people I've seen calling him a political prisoner. Please do not be confused. He is not a political prisoner. He broke legislation which says that you cannot publicly name these people. Now, we don't agree with that legislation, and people like Riccardo Bosi will change that legislation if you put the majors last in the upcoming election. Put the majors last, put the independents first, and we can get these laws changed. But at the moment, that legislation stands, and the Cossack, for whatever reason, decided that he would go the route that he has gone. He will have to face those significant consequences. There is another Australian, much bigger media personality who did this some years ago. In fact, I only thought it was fairly recent, but it's about 30 years ago that broadcaster Darren Hinch was put in jail for mentioning the names of pedophiles. Now, he spent a good amount of time in jail at the time, then was put on home release with an ankle bracelet, so he wasn't allowed out of the house. He wasn't allowed to access any computers or have any technology. That is the kind of thing that could be facing the Cossack's future. I believe that yesterday it was put to him he could get bail, but to get bail he needed to agree to stay off his Aussie Cossack channel and have absolutely no influence on the election coming up this weekend. Now, if I know the Cossack, that would have been quite unacceptable to him. So he will stay in jail. We are unsure as to the extent of the hunger strike that he has gone on. Of course, he started a hunger strike the night he was arrested. He's now been shifted to Silverwater. The food may have improved there. We don't know. He may be continuing that hunger strike. We aren't getting any information out at all from the Cossack at the moment, although I'm sure his legal team will be conferring with him today before they head into court tomorrow and try and gain him bail. Now, they're not going to get these charges dismissed easily. There is an avenue that potentially could be used, but that avenue is very narrow, and it's a bit of a Hail Mary shot. It has to do with when the orders were produced by the court to protect the name of the pedophile that they had found guilty. Apparently that happened last Friday. Now, it's all well and good for the judge to issue an order, but the paperwork has to be filed with the court. There might be a element of opportunity between the time that the presiding magistrate has issued those orders and said them in court and the time they were actually filed with the court. I would suggest that most of the weekend those orders were left unsigned and unfiled, uncommitted. So there may well be an opportunity to argue that the person at the time was not legally covered by a suppression order because the paperwork hadn't been filed. Now, I have no inside information on this, but I do know how courts work. They are slow beasts. They do tend to grind to a very fine powder anything that goes through them, but they do move slowly. This could be an avenue where the Cossack may be able to say, well, the suppression order wasn't in place when I mentioned the name. Like I say, it's going to be a stretch. So it is going to be an interesting day tomorrow. The Cossack will apply for bail again. If he does not agree to the bail terms of staying off his YouTube channel and having absolutely no public exposure, I suspect he'll be staying in again until one day next week, where they will have another bail hearing. The election will be over, and the Aussie Cossack can have no influence on it. They will potentially let him go, but he still may have those YouTube or broadcast restrictions placed on him. So that's something that you need to be a bit aware of. He may well disappear from the screens for a little bit, although there'll be plenty of others around him, others like myself, who will be happy to help him whichever way that we can without getting him in trouble or getting ourselves in trouble, I dare say. Bosi, on the other hand, has, he's got to face this a different way. Obviously, he has nothing to do with what happened to the Cossack and is there to support. People were significantly worried that there was a big falling out between the Cossack and Bosi. That's not the case. In fact, I know personally that Riccardo has got a great deal of time for the Cossack and sees him as a very exuberant and effervescent personality that has a heart of gold. Sometimes he may get a little carried away, but he's got a heart of gold, and maybe he's learning a little bit inside at the moment. I don't know. We'll wait and see what he says when he comes out. But I have no doubt when the Aussie Cossack comes out, he is going to be unhappy. Now, speaking again about Riccardo Bosi. Now, Riccardo Bosi, yesterday, his team put out a press release suggesting that we were going to hear Riccardo Bosi on the show this morning with Kyle and Jackie O on KIIS FM. Now, the time was 9:45, I think it was booked for. I was listening from about 9 o'clock, and I pretty much knew straight away then that Riccardo wasn't going to be on the show because they weren't pre-promoting him at all. There was no mention of him. There was absolutely nothing. They were talking about Carl and Ali from the Today Show, who actually wound up filling the spot that Riccardo was in. Now, I know a number of people have already rung the radio station. They tend to ring the competition lines. They'll get the producer of the Kyle and Jackie show, if they ordain to pick up the phone, and they'll tell you whatever they think they can tell you that you'll believe to get you off the phone. They don't care. There's no point trying to make a complaint to them because it'll go nowhere. if you want to make a complaint that that Riccardo Bosi was scheduled to appear, and then because someone decided not to talk to him, they pulled the interview after a huge campaign yesterday. I believe a lot of people rang KIIS FM in Sydney yesterday after an interview that they did with one of the politicians yesterday morning, saying, "Why aren't you talking to Bosi?" So after many, many phone calls to the radio station yesterday, they capitulated. They said, "Yep, great, we'll have him on at 9:45." I know Ricardo is ready and waiting to go on and have that chat. Now I've started this broadcast about 10:45. Now Kyle and Jackie O are still on, but they're in a pre-record at this stage, so they're not doing too much too live. I wouldn't have thought. There might be an opportunity where Ricardo can be squeezed back into the schedule now, but I really doubt it. If you are going to ring and complain, as some people are doing, then please ring the main lines. Ring the main office line. They're the people who take complaints, and there is a complaint procedure that they have to fill out. And obviously, Kyle and complaints go hand in hand. So they'll have somebody there specifically to do all this. Make sure you do it. So, yes, there is no freedom of speech at the moment. That seems to be the biggest issue. The only mainstream media coverage that any political party is getting is if they are a mainstream political party. And Ricardo is fighting the good fight in Greenway. So can I just suggest to you folks that if you are in that electorate, you can't vote for him anywhere else at the moment, but that's only at the moment. There might be other things coming down the pipe we're not too sure about, but right now it's only Greenway. Greenway in New South Wales, get Riccardo Bosi elected. Have a look at the other 9 Australia One supported independents that are around the country, including especially Lindsay Temple in Queensland. Now, Lindsay has been doing a whole run through Queensland recently, and he's been having huge success. In fact, I'm being flooded with people with comments from people who've met him on the road after seeing the interview that I did with him a week or so ago, and they are extolling his virtue. He's a great bloke. If you haven't met or seen Lindsay yet, by all means, go onto my channel here, find the interview that I did with him, seek out where he is. I think he's down in the southern part of Queensland at the moment, but he's going all over. And if you get the opportunity to shake his hand, please do. I'm sure after you've done that, you will give him your vote on Saturday. Vote 1 for Lindsay Temple, Queensland Senate, and Maddie Fry and Vince Pennell in South Australia. They're doing big, big, big shows over in South Australia. Congratulations to both of them. And I'm getting messages from people out of Barker that are saying what marvelous people you both are. So that's awesome. If you guys can get a few more people to tick your name in that box, you never know. One of you might be heading off to Canberra to represent us, and that will be absolutely fantastic. Ashley in Western Australia is doing a great job, and of course in Victoria there is no end. I think there's 3 or 4 candidates in there who are pushing through pretty hard. Dominic Craig Cole is still pushing hard down that direction too. So if you are in those areas, please make sure that you support the A1 supported candidates, or at the very least, vote the majors last, put the independents first. And before you put the independents first, have a look at where their preferences are going. There's no point preferencing or putting an independent first if they're going to preference Labor or Liberal next. Put them last, put them as next to last as you can. That's the only way to really look at it. Make sure you know who you're voting for at this election. So that's the quick little update for this morning. I'll just have a quick glance through. There's a lot of people who've called in with or dropped in with a couple of questions. I'll just try and find them. It's hard being a one-man band. Rebecca Loy, somebody has said in Queensland, she's with One Nation. She's done a fair bit for Fair Business Australia. Thanks, Julia, for mentioning that. Yeah, Ukraine. Thanks, Peter. Ukraine, the home of pedophile Nazism. You are absolutely 100 correct. Can I just tell you that I've picked up a little bit of intel about that. Now, we can expect that things in Ukraine are going to quieten down in the next week or so. I really wish the Aussie Cossack was available to talk to, because he gets some brilliant and real intelligence coming out of that region. Not that anybody wants to believe it, because it's mostly pro-Russian, which is probably because the Russians are doing the right thing by us, the rest of the world. So yes, Ukraine and pedophile Nazism going to be cleaned up there, but there is one more area in the world that requires cleaning, and that's Australia. I was shocked to learn that too. I actually thought Australia's dums had been cleaned out well, from late last year forward. Um, Apparently, that's not the case. Apparently, there are a number of deep pockets in different dams located in Australia. Uh, there are significant US naval forces in Australia at the moment, in Australian waters, and there are significant US naval forces battling in these areas, trying to clean out what's going on in there. And Australia, unfortunately, seems to be, the second largest hub outside of Antarctica for what these bastards are doing. So that's something that we're going to try and find a little bit more information out on as we go forward. But yeah, I see a few people popping up to support One Nation. Look, I have a few theories about One Nation. I think Pauline Hanson's great. I just wish she could speak better. I wish she was more confident in front of a camera. I wish she could stop her voice shaking. It loses confidence, and it makes me lose confidence in her. Malcolm Roberts. I've had a conversation or two with Malcolm Roberts. I don't trust Malcolm Roberts. Um, when Malcolm Roberts came out and said that he'd asked around in Parliament and there was no paperwork, nothing official to suggest there were 28 protected names in Parliament, I knew which side Malcolm was on. So that's all I'll say about One Nation at this stage. I will say, vote your ass off for the Queensland Senate, the A1 Senate supported candidate, because we need all the people that we can get into Parliament as an independent. Doesn't matter if they're A1 or not. In fact, I had a very interesting chat last night with Michael, the head of the IMOP party. Now, I did that on another channel with the Guru. Very interesting to hear how IMOP are going to work. They will join together with all the independents, form a voting bloc. Obviously, there's going to be some toing and froing in there, and obviously, there's going to be some independents who go and vote with the bastards because they will accept the bribes and the inducements that are being offered to them. We have to make sure we put enough independents into the parliament this election that can't happen. They won't be able to get all of us. I'm hoping that we can get 60 or more independents. I mean, it's a pipe dream. But if we could get 60 or more independents elected, what a difference it would make in our parliament. In one term, we could clean all this shit up. So yeah, I'm pretty motivated to see that happen. And the only way it's going to happen is if we collectively put people like Riccardo Bosi into Parliament. I don't think Pauline Hanson or Malcolm Roberts are going to fix the problems. They've been in there for years and done nothing. Yes, okay, they had their hands tied, some will suggest, but there is more to that story. More to that story. So keep your questions coming, folks. There is a bit of talk that Bosi is going to maybe get on the radio again this afternoon. I've just got a message that's come through there. I don't think that'll be the case. I think if Ricardo has been offered an invite for one show and then had it cancelled, he's not likely to go back and do it with another program in the afternoon. So I wouldn't go holding my breath for that. So that's the update, really, at this point in time. I don't have too much more to tell you. Well, actually, I can share something with you. Somebody has sent me through some really interesting pictures. Give me a second here. if you've been jabbed, go and see your doctor. Go and have a full blood screen, particularly for STDs and with a particular focus on HIV. It's not going to make you happy when you find the result. And I'm sorry. I really am desperately sorry for you. But it's better that you know now rather than later. So please, folks, give that a go, and we'll see how we go. All right, I'm going to end up now. Looks like we've got a few issues. Somebody's saying that I've got some audio problems. So don't know why that would be happening. I didn't think I'd said anything too bad. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I'll try and be back on a little later on with another update. I'm trying to get a hold of Mrs. Cossack, but I don't have her number. I've only got his. I believe she has his phone, but I don't know that she's answering too much on it. All right, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.